So I'd kind of resigned myself to wasn't going to do a video today. It's been raining, haven't got the dogs walked, got a bunch of family stuff that I was dealing with earlier. Although it was a lot better than the past couple of days since I was much more focused on protecting my energy before I was involved with with my family stuff. So that helped. I've learned, okay. First off, I do not like the green eyeliner with the green makeup, which, I mean, I knew it was kind of hit or miss. But especially if I was crying a lot the days before because this whole like shadow deal. Honestly, it makes me feel like I match my Beetlejuice pants pretty good because I feel like my shadows are just popping out real nicely. So there's that. I wasn't really thinking I was gonna, well, yeah, I wasn't thinking I was gonna do a video today necessarily. I had wanted to, but yeah, I went over to my brother's house and it was still raining then, and was hanging out with the dogs for a while, and it's like, man, I'm really just tired. And would really, I mean, I'm not going to bed, obviously, but I shouldn't have to go potty their dogs anymore. I think they'll be back soon enough that they should be good at this point. Because I left at, I guess, like a 4:15 or something. On the way home, I was kind of going back and forth on whether I wanted to do the video or not. And I was like, I was going to just say, okay, I want to see something in particular between here and home if I'm supposed to go do a video. And when I got to the stop sign, where if I turned left, I would have gone home. If I turned right, just come over to school. Right as I got there and looked down, the odometer was at like 4144, and then there's 41 on the temperature gauge, as well as like 419 or something. So it's like, okay, I guess I'll go do it. And then as I was on my way over here, I saw like 555 in like 3 different places. It's like, yep, I guess I'm supposed to. Even though I feel like a hot mess. I did get my hair dyed, but it's like I moved the part and then my little micro bangs are annoying me. And I'm not sure what's going on up here. Just like where the bleach broke it in the past. Luckily nothing else really broke this time, so that was encouraging. But I did do it by myself. There's like a couple spots that look like they need a little touch up, but I have some color depositing shampoo that I figure will take care of that one. Yeah. So this morning I had to go pick my uncle and my dad up from Z-Bart because they both dropped off their vehicles and needed a ride back. So it's like, okay, am I taking you to the hospital or are we going back home? What's the story? And we ended up going, well, back to the neighborhood, if you will. It's not actually a neighborhood, but we all live over there. So, my dad called my grandma and she needed a ride. So we dropped my uncle off and he took their car over there, or their other car, and we picked up my grandma, and we left a little earlier than she did. Going with my synchronicity earlier, it was just 4:14 on the timer, so that was like right on there with the numbers that I was already seeing in repeat. But yeah, we picked my grandma up. On the way over to the hospital, you know, she was all complaining about her sister that feels the need to call her every day. I think she's like 91 or something. She's like, I don't want to talk to her. It's like, if you don't want to talk to her, don't talk to her. You don't have to answer the phone. She can really assume that you're at the hospital or something, as easy as anything. She says that her sister keeps trying to invite herself over to Thanksgiving, and as of earlier today, we didn't know what that was going to look like for us. So apparently we are back to the original plan of having Thanksgiving at the rehab place, the nursing home rehab, because my grandfather's getting moved there this evening. So that's the current game plan, which means Mom will be back tonight, so she could have probably done my hair, but she'll be worrying about other stuff. She looked at me like she thought something was different, but didn't say anything about it. So I just really feel like I need to get it cut and like trimmed up with this whole horrible mess with this little micro bang thing that's happening here. God, it's gonna annoy me. There we go. That's a little better. Yeah. I don't even know what to talk about. Ben sent me a message yesterday asking me about when we were going to all meet up to discuss the podcast. It's like, we definitely need to get on that. And I was like, well, you're the one that's working and has the busiest, like, you have the most consistently busy schedule, so when are you available? Well, he's available in the evenings and on weekends, so then it's going to be a matter of that's also when my sister-in-law is available, and if we're going to mess up their plans or something, if we schedule a get-together to talk about podcast stuff with my brother. And I sent my brother a message, was like, hey, been asked about this, and he just sent me like the emoji with the big eyes. It's like, yep. I said something about needing him for it, or I thought it would be a good thing to have him on it or something. And he's like, how about I just make a guest appearance or something? It's like, how about at some point I don't know, show up at his house or kidnap him or something, go with him somewhere, and then like randomly do a video just so I can like get him used to talking on camera and it's not so scary and that kind of a thing. Social anxiety is a real thing, and yeah, we've all been there. I think so. Well, I mean, our family anyway. But really with that, the whole healing thing, it's like that you kind of go through cycles with that anyway. And I feel like most of my healing stuff, I've had to kind of be isolated for it because it's literally working through everything. And yesterday, I feel like I don't always, well, I rarely know what I'm going to talk about on the videos when I'm starting them. So obviously that's like number one reason why I don't really push trying to get people to my channel. I just make it public and the universe will take it where it's meant to go. And if it ends up that it's on there without any views, that's fine. I am up to 13 subscribers, and that was exciting when I saw it the other day. One more from the last time that I knew of before that. And, 13th after, it's my 13th month now, technically. So, yeah, I feel like that's kind of a good pace for starting out. Because I was like my brother on that with the whole social anxiety and not wanting to do it beforehand. And I got on YouTube the other day to post another video. I saw that like part 2 of my family disappointment day had like 89 views. It's like, where did that come from? Okay. But I've been getting like a lot of the cards that I've been pulling in the past year have talked about monitoring your progress because too much too soon can be overwhelming. And it's like, yeah, that's for sure. That's why I'm not, actively, I'm doing the thing if it's necessary for it to go to somewhere in particular, the universe will get it there. And if it's not, then it won't. If there's something to be learned of it, same. And if it's just, I don't know, showing me as a hot mess like today, I feel like I'm totally rocking. And it kind of looks like I got a mullet with this little weird action going on. I don't know. But yeah, luckily with this weird bun thing, you can't see the spot that I missed the worst. I think I just need to take a shower and wash it real good tonight and fix the spot that was iffy and put my part back where it was. I moved it because I had the spot that I missed, honestly. But then it came out with the micro bangs. It's like, shit. Yeah. Anyway, just hot mess video, apparently. I think I'm at like 97 videos, and I'm still pushing for 100 before the end of the month, and I think that's probably the bigger reason why I am here instead of going home like I was originally planning on doing. Well, since it was raining and not a good day for walking dogs. I mean, particularly the Doodle and the Basset, because I'm pretty confident I would be like rolling through the mud somewhere. That doesn't sound really that exciting. Yeah, since I had to get up early-ish to take my dad and my uncle to Z-Bart, it's like I pushed to sleep, a bit later, before I went over to potty my brother's dogs, which was fine because I went over to their house later last night. But it's just like, I need to balance everything out so I can make sure I'm in a much more zen space than before I go over there and deal with my family. And I feel like when I was around them, at least starting out, I was way better, and not as inclined to let that negative energy just latch on and drag me all the way down. I can't say it was entirely successful because I do feel like really exhausted, and it could be partly the weather. But yeah, I'm just I don't know. On the way back home, okay, where it got a little complicated, and I might have got a little lax with my chill and dealing with the family, was when last night I had somebody contact me about some like wrist and ankle weights and weighted gloves that I had posted on Facebook, and she said she had an appointment at 11:30, but then anytime or after that she could probably come pick them up. So it's like, all right, well, it's like my schedule's kind of all over the place tomorrow, but send me a message when you're on your way or ready to be on your way, and I'll send you the address and figure out where I'm at. So yeah, because in one scenario, when I was taking the dogs into account and thinking I'd be walking them, then I said maybe the school, but then I wasn't planning on spending too much time at the hospital today. But then since I went and it was like a lot better than it was a couple days before, it's like, okay, well, not so bad. Let's see. Yeah, like I was going, okay, when I messaged the lady this morning and asked her if it would be easier to meet over in, the other direction where the hospital is. And she said, didn't matter, it was halfway. Well, she was in between both the hospital and where we live. So it's like, all right, well, it's like, we'll just continue playing it by ear then. I had the weights in the car for a while. Drove them to Greenfield, all that fun stuff. But anyway, yeah. she sent me a message around, let's say, between 12:30 and 1, and said she was ready to get them. And then it's like, I saw the message, and it's like, I'm going to hold off on answering that until I get in the car. And then I have an idea of, like, what time frame. So that was where it became an ordeal, because then it went from, well, when I was planning on not staying there forever, my uncle had driven over there. He was already planning on driving over to the hospital separate with their other car. And when they heard about the cars, because it was supposed to be like between 3 and 5:30. So when they heard about the cars, they were going to go that way, come back to the neighborhood. And, well, then they probably would have had to coordinate with me again, honestly, but we hadn't worked out all those details, so we're kind of playing it by ear. Well, my uncle hears that their car's done at like 1:30. I don't know, somewhere in there. And then they were trying to figure out with my parents' car, and apparently my uncle had made a comment that they could just call his number for either when they were both done. And they hadn't said anything, and they didn't say anything to my dad about the other car, so it's like, okay. So my uncle ended up calling to check on it, and they said it would be done by, like 2 or something. And so my uncle, we all ate in the hospital cafeteria. It was my parents and me and my aunt and uncle. My grandma stayed up with my grandpa. And when we were trying to figure all those details out, what was going on, my mom and my aunt decided I needed to take my grandma home because he was going to be going to the nursing home rehab place today. So, she could go home, take a nap, and then whenever they finally get him moved over to the rehab place, she could always go back and visit again. Maybe. So, I don't know if she'll want to. My dad could probably take her that way because he's got the other car now. But, yeah, so that was a whole ordeal, and I'm trying to coordinate with this lady, and I was just like, yeah, sorry, anytime I start dealing with my family, it ends up being the equivalent of herding cats because they're all over the place and don't hardly know what end is up most of the time. So, then she decided, because I was going to drop my grandma off, pick my uncle up, and then run over to our house and meet up with her and give her the weights. But then she said, would it be okay to wait until after she picked her kids up? That's fine, whatever. So then we added in the little excursion back over to Z-Bart to get the other cars. And then she sent me a message when we were not quite there. And it's like, well, she's going to have to wait a minute. So I get to Z-Bart and I drop them off, and sure enough, it's a message from her saying she's on the way. It's like, all right. It's like, I am on my way back, but I had to run out for a little bit. I said I'll be there in like 10 to 15 minutes. And then, of course, we get there. It's like pouring, and it's like the cold rain. So that kind of sucked. But, yeah, she was like, sorry for making you come out in this or something. It's like, it's like, this is the easy part. Get the weights out of my space and add $20 instead. Yeah, I take that as a win. It's just anytime the family gets involved, then it's like chaos. A whole lot of chaos. But I was at least in a better state of mind to begin with. On the way, I think where it kind of got a little screwy was when my mom and my aunt decided that I needed to take my grandma home. And then we went up there, and I was like, well, you guys can tell her. So they tell her she needs to go home with me, and she's like, what, why? And they're like, because you can go home and take a nap, and he can stay here and take a nap, and then whenever we get to the other place, then you can come back, and then you can visit him there. But right now, it's like just adding to the confusion, really. So, and of course, my grandma, we forgot her wheelchair in the other car, or before we dropped it off. So they had them at the entry, and she refused to get one. So starting when I went to drop my grandma off at the door, my dad stays in the car, and he's like, well, I'll just go with you when you park, and put this stuff that Mom had us pack a bag. And then when she found out that she was going to be, or they were going to be relocating, she's like, I'm coming home. So leave it down there. So my dad's like, well, I can put it in the truck. It's like, just send me the code for the truck and I'll put it in the truck. We don't need both of us, and we're sending the 83-year-old woman into the building when she doesn't stay upright very good. Somebody needs to be with her. So he went with her, and they made it up there in one piece, luckily. But then she almost fell before we even left the room. It's like, and then, she has this tendency where she walks holding her cane, but not using her cane. It's like, the cane is not useful if you're not using it. The last cane she had, she bent when she fell on it. I definitely remember talking about that on here. When we went to Cheddar's for dinner, late lunch after we were leaving the second rehab place that my grandpa was at. And that was the whole thing. But that one got bent because, she wasn't using it right, and she fell. So yeah, that was a whole hot mess. That's pretty much how we do things. It's just a mess. Like I feel like today, in like these awesome shadows. I'm very much just, like I said, I'm feeling this Beetlejuice thing today. Need to fix myself again, I guess. Yeah. I was talking to my friend earlier. It's like, one of the chaplains that I used to work with when I was in the Guard. Okay, I never had a chaplain with my Guard unit. But for a time, they did link me up to where I was working with other chaplains. And, they had like these strong bonds, family, or like marriage retreat things. I helped with a couple of those, and just those kind of things. But it's like, I don't honestly remember much of the time I spent with the chaplains, because there was so little of it. But one of them I met up with a couple times. Well, once since I moved back from Alabama. Went out for dinner and kind of caught up. And, he was the one that said he would be surprised if my former stepson didn't reach out at some point in time when he's like old enough to do it. He said that he had gotten divorced, but he had been with, and it was a second marriage, I think, because she had kids from the previous marriage. So he said when they got divorced, he ended up having them reconnect with him later. Because I'd mentioned that. It's like, well, we'll see when that time comes. We still got some years. But yeah, we were talking about that. But he invited me to, there's a Army versus Navy football game, like in December. And it's like, I really don't give a rip about football anymore. But there was a time that I did enjoy it. So I think, I've been feeling here lately, like, especially since I keep pulling these cards that keep talking about, now is the time to go hang out with community, with, lots of people, and have fun in groups and that kind of stuff. It's like, since I keep getting these messages, then why not? And since Ben used to be in the Marines, so it's like, hey, you want to maybe go to this thing? It's like families are welcome, so it's like, hey, I sent him the invite for the event on Facebook earlier. But he's like, yeah, that actually sounds really fun. It's like, all right. It's like, I don't know who's going to be there. The chaplain's the only one I'll probably know, but I just feel like, even like, I know that whenever we get the podcast rolling, I feel like part of the target audience would be like former military connected types. Maybe not so, well, who have some kind of awareness of the situation, like we've all ended up establishing, and kind of how it was one of those situations. It's like, were you there? It's like, you're just a number. You don't actually mean anything to the government. You're just there because they need people in case something happens and they want to send people off to be killed, basically. And you're not a name or anything. You're just in the color to go do the thing you're told to do. So, yeah. But it's like, with the ridiculously high rate of soldier suicide, it's like, I feel like that's largely connected to that point, and that's kind of something that we all picked up from our experiences. We're all in different branches, so I feel like that's kind of one of our common links on the podcast direction as well. So I feel like it would be beneficial to stop the whole imposter syndrome and feeling like I'm not supposed to be somewhere, like the whole deal with Veterans Day, and not feeling like I didn't also sign my life over for a time, even though I ended up I had to get out early because of the whole brain issue, traumatic brain injury. So that's not really something I could control, and had it not been for that, I would have finished out whatever I needed to do. But that's always been one of those things that I've really struggled, because even while I was in, it felt like I was there for a very specific lesson, which I always knew, but being amongst those, like the other soldiers, it's like, I feel like I don't belong here, kind of a thing. So I just kind of rolled with that. But then at the same time, it's like, there's still something about me and who I am that wanted to go that route too. So maybe I stop looking at it as, being different from them, and start owning the fact that essentially wherever I end up at, we're all going to have the common ground of being human. And I think there's like so many people look for all the ways we're different, and that becomes the focus. And we need to stop looking for all the differences as much, and just realize, we have that common humanity thing, and just go remembering that, keeping that in mind, and get to know some new people. Because like one of my favorite experiences when I was doing the hospital chaplaincy internship for seminary, I was at the university hospital for a while, and this day I ended up talking to this patient. I don't remember what his story or why he was there or anything like that, but what I remembered about him was, he was a Vietnam vet, and he was excited to find out that I was in the military at that time. And, we started talking about some stuff on that end. And he just started talking about how, his experiences of being on the boats and there would be people that very much didn't want to be there and would shoot themselves at the front of the boat so they would fall over. And if if the gunshot was not successful, then they would be eaten by piranhas. And he was telling me about this and talking about the screams that, still kind of haunt him, obviously. And, then he talked about how, I don't know the time frame when his parents died, but that was like within 6 weeks of each other. And he just had a lot of stuff that we were talking about. It's like, that's some really heavy stuff. Have you ever had the chance to talk to anybody about this? And he's like, not to you. It's like, wow. But it's like, that's a heavy burden to carry all that time. And I think that right there is kind of my purpose and why I had, my own military experience, however it went. There were, of course, multiple layers to it, but I think, I'm really connecting with that point of feeling like I am divinely placed where I'm at this point in time, for a reason. I'm very much supposed to be here right now learning everything that I am learning. And that, first off, this is like the most beneficial time frame I think I've ever had in my life, because I am aware of that point. It's like I always had that idea that was kind of following me around, but I never really connected with it until like this journey through the healing process. And yeah, obviously yesterday, the day before, obviously there are still days that are rough and like hella rough and make me look like this when I'm done. But yeah, that was also just everything didn't work out for me today on that end. But it is what it is. But yeah, like just, I feel like, remembering that situation now and remembering connecting with that guy, it's like, I feel like I need to go to this event and, whatever interactions I have with anybody, universe will put me where I'm meant to be. I know that, and as long as I'm mindful to, keep track of what's mine and what's not, and protect my energy before I go, so I don't just like blend with everybody. That is such, oh my God, it's so annoying. And I know that there's a great big purpose for the fact that I am that way, and I have all these Cancer placements that mean I am so easily swayed by the feelings of others. And God, where I pick up the toxicity in the environment around me, I know that part of the purpose of that is to transmute it, because not everybody cares to try to do that stuff, but now that I'm aware that this is a thing that I'm doing, I'm able to better prioritize, getting out and like skating to help clear that energy from my system, or, the salt baths or salt showers or whatever, and just getting all the bad juju out of my system. Because not everybody is aware that you can do that. And yeah, stuck energy gets hella stuck, and if nothing else, my life has shown me that time and again. So yeah, it was a big thing that I've been kind of working through. Anyway, I had some thoughts on yesterday's video, and kind of when I was rewatching it and just listening to it, it's like, I feel like that sounds like there's a little bit of like a sense of entitlement or something, and that's not quite what I was trying, or the point that I feel, since I opened that can of worms, let's just go there. Okay, like part of what I said, it felt like it had the potential to come across as entitled. And it's like, well, yeah, but considering the fact that my entire life was spent not getting needs met, I think that was the point of what I was supposed to learn through that whole journey. Like, this whole channel is my process. So I know sometimes I don't sound very good in it, and that's perfectly okay. I know I'm not for everybody, but even like that, I feel like it serves a purpose, or it will serve a greater purpose when the time is right. And the universe will use it however it's meant to use it. I feel like, like that's the biggest thing is I had all these emotional needs that went unmet. And so, yeah, maybe there was no specific big capital T trauma kind of moment, but it was like all the little lowercase t trauma moments that added up into this bigger monster that I've been working to sort through. So every time I do a video, it's basically like I never know where I'm going to start. Like, sometimes I have an idea of what I want to talk about, but for the most part, it's just see where it goes, because I talk in circles. I always have. And well, that's how I make sense of things. So even coming to the idea that it's like, well, that sounds kind of entitled. Well, it's like, of course it sounds entitled, because it's basically coming from a sense of all the unmet needs in my lifetime. And I feel like that's one of those things, like, okay, if you're gonna have a kid, I feel like you need to be able to love them. And most of the world that, most of us have grown up in is not capable of that. So it's like we've very much been dealing with the unmet need for love that has been neglected. And of course, because so many of us have had those kind of experiences where the unmet need was it was the bigger thing, and the beast that came out of it is like, we all have our different ways of coping, but it still goes back to the fact that, ultimately most of us had parents that weren't capable of actual love, and it was when you see love as something that you have to earn, and not as a part of who you are, because ultimately at the core, if you get past all the brokenness and the hurt and get back to, like, the purity of what's there at the core, it's love. And that hasn't been in most of our experience. So of course it's going to come out where it comes out. And that just happened to be one of those spaces. But without this this little avenue for me to communicate and then rewatch and then think of how that sounds, how many of us don't go to therapy that probably should? And I feel like, a lot of people, especially if you've been connected to, like, the church in any kind of way, it feels like a lot within religion tend to kind of demonize the idea of getting help. You don't need help, you just need Jesus. It's like, fuck that. That's not that's a bunch of bullshit. And like I've said before, that's basically just copying off of the Jesus test. Jesus figured it out, but all we have to do is copy off his test and, just follow him as this be all end all God figure, and we don't have to do the healing work. We're just okay. But that's not how it works, because if you don't do the healing work, you're going to keep hurting people too, because hurt people hurt people. And yeah, that's the big thing right there. And you don't get to say, okay, first off, there is a reason that Jesus came out of the religion of the time to show that healing is possible. And there is also a reason why religion, like the religion that came of that, is basically the same thing, just done a little differently. And now we're putting this guy as God, and and since we have something outside of us, this is God, that we can, point at, then we can do whatever we want, because as long as we say we believe in Jesus, we love Jesus so much, we can go damn people to hell and hurt them however we want, because we have Jesus and we don't have to do that. We copied off Jesus' tests, and we copied his answers, and now we don't have to. It's like, but you don't actually know jack shit about his message if you are preaching this love thing that you clearly don't get, and that's a big thing. And it's literally the healing process is hell. You don't need to go to somewhere out when you die because you were just so bad in life. It's literally, if you're going to actually do anything worthwhile in this life, you have to go through that hell of the healing process. And right there. And yeah. That's why it takes me so long to work out to the point of these videos, because that's something that I've thought about for a long time, and I think about it a lot, but for it to actually get to the point where it actually comes out, because like I've had other videos and it's always later in the video, and I feel like that's for a purpose too, because if you can stick it out through all the boring shit at the beginning and trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to talk about, then hey, cool. But yeah, that's a big thing that I know is really frowned on, that I think that's very much, I know, looking at the events that I've gone through in my own life and the things that have felt like they were going to destroy me, that right there is why. Because I know when that shit comes to the light of day, lots of people are going to be having lots of problems with with me, and it took me a really long time to get past the need to try to seek approval in the world around me. It's like, I'm not somebody, now that I know my birth chart, it's like, I'm not somebody that was meant to just go along with whatever bullshit is out there. And yeah, and it came from a lot of being ass deep in where the bullshit was coming from to figure out that whole point. So yeah, and that is also a reason why it is taking so long for my channel to build or to grow, because I'm not putting it out there actively. I know I say a lot of shit that is eventually going to piss a lot of people off. But I also know that this is part of my growth path, and this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now, and saying the things that maybe nobody else would be okay with hearing, because it's hard and scary, and what does that mean for anything else if you can't just rely on this thing out, or this person outside of you, to be the be all end all of right answers, and just accepting him as the right answer and copying his answers. So yeah. But anyway, it's getting dark and I kind of have to pee, so I'm going to get off of here. And I'm kind of surprised, I guess, where this went. I didn't know where it was going, and I feel like a royal hot mess, and I feel like that whole little spiel that I just went through, that's probably a big part of why it started so freaking slow this time. Because, like I said, it's one of those things where the people who find me and feel some kind of draw to whatever it is I have to say, like, eventually my people will find me. But I know, like, as I'm still trying to navigate the path of getting to where they can, yeah, is what it is. So yeah. So again, I'm going to get off of here before it gets dark, and because it's supposed to start sleeting here before long, and it's cold. So yeah, so I'm gonna go home. And as always, I appreciate you. And until the next time, see ya.